What's up, witches? I'm Taylor.
And I'm Amber.
And this is
Waking Up the Witch. We're your neighborhood witches. Each week, we talk about all things witchy and connect with other humans in a storytelling format about navigating life on this floating rock.
We're two curious ladies trying to understand the human experience. But while we do that, we think it's important to honor the people that lived here before us and honor the cultures and traditions that we're being inspired by.
This podcast is about waking up the witch, which means we are learning and growing every day. That being said, we are always open to feedback on how we can do better.
The views and opinions of our guests don't necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Waking Up the Witch. Now, let's go, ghouls. Hey, Amber.
Hi, Taylor.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. A little sleepy again, but
It's okay.
it's okay.
We're gonna keep it short and sweet. We have an amazing episode for you today, and we
So
don't want to
good.
take too much of your time.
Oh.
But we're talking all things sensuality, sexuality, femininity. You know we love that shit over here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you owe us a little.
Feels inappropriate.
Shut up. Why? Because
Baby
you have a
moving.
naked stranger inside your belly.
Yeah, a naked stranger.
It's been a while since you've given us one. Thank you.
I was really.
It's all things yummy like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't have anything else to add today. Do you?
Enjoy. So let's go ahead and start by planting our feet on the earth if that feels good. Closing your eyes if you can or feel safe to. And we're going to take in 3 deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Another deep breath in and release. One more big breath in and exhale. Just taking a moment to feel into your body where you may feel some discomfort. Go ahead and shake it out. Just allowing yourself to be connected to your breath. I'd like to call in our higher selves and our spirit teams to be here with us. This opportunity to connect and learn and grow. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for today. Welcome, Rain. Please introduce yourself and let us know what you do and who you are.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Rain Montana, and I'm an intimacy and relationship coach. I help mostly women and couples who are struggling with an unfulfilling sex life for one reason or another. On a personal note, my husband and I have 4 adult children and 8 grandchildren, and we're empty nesters. I was in the fitness industry as a trainer and instructor for about 30 years. And my husband and I currently own a gym as well. He's a physical therapist and his practice is within the same building. And then just another fun fact, I earned my pro card in figure at 50 years old.
What's a pro card? What does that mean?
It's a pro status, really.
Awesome.
So in the bodybuilding world, there's different categories.
Okay.
And one is figure, bikini, bodybuilding, etc. And so my category was figure. And
Heck
So I
yeah. 50?
started competing at 47
Wow.
and eventually earned my pro status at 50.
Well, you do look incredible.
Congrats. Yeah. I was like, Grandma,
Thank
what?
you.
Coolest, hottest grandma I've ever known.
Thank you. Thank you.
How awesome. Good for you. And
Yeah.
very inspiring too, that it's, we're never too old, and that's only a mindset. You can do
Right.
anything you want.
So we'd love to hear about your life, kind of starting from the beginning and how you got to where you are today, if you'd like to share.
Yeah. So originally I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and lived with a single mom, a couple of sisters. My dad was absent from the picture. And we were very involved in the church, but unfortunately in a hypocritical way, in that we would go home and our family did not look like maybe what church should be. So I've always been growth minded, though. I was, even say a junior higher, and where most kids had posters of maybe actors, actresses, or singers. I had posters of like scenery and quotes. Like, I don't know.
That.
It's just who I was at the time. So I've always been that way. Initially, I was, into books, wanting to learn and grow and expand that way. So I kind of call myself the book lady. My adult kids know very well. I'm always like, this book, that book. And so I buy an order, and you can see my shelf. That's only a small bit.
Dreamy
Tiny
library.
little. So, but now it's so wonderful. For years now, we have podcasts and online, and learning has gotten so great and
so accessible.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. So, fast forward. I suppose just maybe in the last 20 plus years, maybe I'll sort of start there. My husband and I were a second marriage. We've been together 22 years now. And we were raising steps and our own kids, and we had our own businesses, and life was crazy and busy. And over the years, I just sort of we lost our connection, our intimate connection. We were always in love. There was never a moment that we didn't want to be together, but in the busyness of life, it's easy to put those things last. So I also had around that time I had painful intercourse, lost a lot of my hair. I was operating mostly from my masculine energy and we need both. The masculine energy, if you think about a river bank, and the river bank holds the feminine energy. The feminine energy is more the river. So you really can't have one without the other. We need both. Ideally, we want to be able to maybe access them as we need them rather than one or the other control us, right? So I had set out several years ago on a year of yes, I call it, which is more like a year and a half of yes. And this is just on my path into finding myself again. I felt like I lost myself. Who am I? I was a mom and all of the things that you just heard, just busy, that it's easy to forget who we are and to lose parts of us. So I just remember thinking there has to be more than this. There's more. And so I set out on this year, and my husband was very supportive, so that was wonderful. But my first stop was in New York with Regina Thomas-Schauer, who with her.
Cry. I love Mama Gena.
She's amazing.
She's so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
You're so lucky.
In fact, I did a 12-week, 8-week online with her and a group earlier in the year. But several years ago, I went to her mastery program.
Awesome.
And that was in New York. And I live in California. I've been here over 30 years now. So for those that aren't familiar with Mama Gena or Regina Thomas Shower, she talks a lot about our femininity and pleasure and finding that pleasure and just being in pleasure no matter what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's practice, right? Because maybe it's not pleasurable to scrub a toilet, right? But how can we make that pleasurable?
Totally.
Well, I have worn my big heels, my stripper heels, and dressed sexy to scrub toilets. Just me here. So just ideas
that. Yes.
of things that you can do. From there, I went to San Francisco and I studied under Bernadette Pleasant, who created the Emotional Institute and Live Femme. And her teaching is about moving emotion and expressing emotion and the energy of it through our bodies. Another area that I was shut down in. So Mama Gena, pleasure, right? When you're busy, where's pleasure? And pleasure isn't only sex or intimacy. Pleasure is all things. Like, how can I make a toilet pleasurable, right?
Yeah.
All things. And then with Bernadette Pleasant, it's emotions, right? Because it's easy to shut our emotions down. And now I was learning, like, we need to move that energy, whatever it is, move it through us. Don't keep stuffing it and shutting it down. And so that was really big as well. And through that, I learned how we learn to shut down our emotions from very, very young. So maybe this happened to you. I think it's really common, and parents trying to do the best they can do still do it because we don't know what we don't know, right? But say even a child is really happy and excited and jumping around and squealing, what do? Settle down. Calm down. What if they're mad? Don't be mad. Don't be sad. Well, we're teaching them not to trust themselves.
Wow.
Right? And parents, we don't even know we're doing that. We're just trying to keep everything in control, right? So it starts young, and then all of the messaging that we get helps us to shut down as well. So from there, I studied S Factor in LA.
Yes.
And Sheila Kelly was a creator of S Factor.
We love S Factor.
Yes, so wonderful. And that's a movement practice, embodying our femininity and our other erotic creatures, how we express as well, but in a different way than the erotic blueprints. It helped me really connect to that piece, that femininity, right? So I had the pleasure, the emotion, the femininity. And then on the heels of that, my husband and I went to Path to Passion with Jaiya and Ian, which is the erotic blueprints. So now I was learning about the sexuality piece of it. I was really blessed to be able to do that. But I always tell people, you can have a year of yes, and it doesn't mean you have to travel anywhere. It doesn't mean you have to spend money. Your year of yes can be, it can be anything. And like we spoke about earlier, there's so much available to us online and podcasts and things we can do in our own hometown or city where we can still be expanding and growing. So I never want people to think that they can't have a year of yes, and it might look differently than someone else's. So that's sort of how I wound up where I am now. As I said, I was a trainer and instructor for decades in the fitness industry, but now I just work with people and help them. And sometimes it's baby steps. You know, sometimes they're on the verge; they just don't even like each other anymore.
Yeah.
So how do we begin baby steps to build a bridge? And sometimes it's not get right into your erotic blueprint, because that might be too much, right? Maybe it's we have some other exercises that I recommend as a starting point. So this is a funny story. Back when we were raising kids and all of that was going on, my husband and I would go on a date night. And what do you think that we wound up talking about on date night?
Kids.
Kids, business.
Yeah.
Yep. The thing that most people, couples, talk about, maybe money, maybe stresses, maybe shopping, groceries, kids, who's not getting along, what's happening. So then what happens to date night? Oh, it's not so fun. So I got this idea and we put a rule on us.
Love it.
Our rule was we can't talk about any of those things on date night.
So important.
And yeah, and the funny part is that we would find ourselves falling into that because it's just a habit. It's what you do. And when you all are so busy, you just got to kind of almost rapid fire it out sometimes, right? So we'd back up. Okay, we got out of that conversation. We were starting about whatever it was. And there were some quiet times because what do you talk about?
Yeah.
I don't know. How was your day? Good, great. How was yours? Well, that's not a conversation, right? So then I think back then I had also maybe got online or bought some conversation cards, but fun ones, fun ones that a couple, would want to talk about to build intimacy or whatever. So I always encourage people, when you go on dates, make sure you have a rule on yourself. If you want a business meeting, even if it's the family business, right? The family business meaning your household, your kids, that's your family business. Sometimes it's good to schedule that. Otherwise, it can tend to just fall out onto every single thing.
Yeah.
And take away from joy sometimes.
Totally. It can be like almost like a poison, even though you don't want it to be. It's not the intention, or that, and it's not even that family is poison or business is poison, but it just, if you don't have those boundaries and give yourself opportunity to continue to build and fall in love and learn about who you are today, because we're always changing through our relationships. We're never the same person, or at least hopefully you're not. We both should be growing. Right. I love that.
Yeah.
So how long ago was your year of yes? When did you do that?
I think it was. That's a great question. Maybe 9-ish years ago.
And do you feel like you and your husband were struggling? Do you think you were kind of on the brink of maybe not working out, or you were just unsatisfied and knew there was more to life?
Right. More like that. Fortunately, never did I feel we were on the brink of divorce or whatever. But, neither of us was really satisfied or fulfilled. And we'd gotten in the habit of, like I said, talking about all of the things of life and work and business. And like you said, it's not that it's necessarily bad. It's just when that's mostly or all we're doing, it doesn't lend itself to connection and intimacy. Right? I mean, all of those things need to be talked about. They're important. And we love our families. And if you have children, we love our children. But we ideally, if you are partnered, we hear, oh, your partner should be first. And that's challenging when you have kids that are dependent on you, right? So it's a fine balance, I think.
Why would a single woman seek you out? What is she looking for from you?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking that. I think it's important that we become someone like who we would want to attract. If we don't know ourselves, and if we've not expanded ourselves, it's going to be a lot harder to attract someone like that. If we're not spending the time on our own personal growth and our own personal pleasure and a pleasure practice. And now I'm not talking about scrubbing toilets. This is the other, right? A pleasure practice. Who are we? What do I want? What is pleasurable to me? What is my access of arousal? Because the media and porn, sadly, tends to be our sex education. What we and I talk to people, self included, who had no sex education growing up, but that was my sex education. See, no sex education is still your sex education, which was nothing. And
say that one again.
Right. And, unfortunately, in the church, so many people I've talked to, and myself included, there's the Song of Solomon and it's all this intimacy and beautiful thing, but in the church, they don't talk about it. They talk about abstinence and very modest and all of these things. So there's messaging there too, even if it's unintended, right? Shut down your sensuality, shut down your vibrancy, shut it down, right? We're still being shut down.
Do you feel like you deal with a lot of shame and like unlearning shame as a woman?
A lot. A lot of sexual shame, yes, but also being so shut down and the messaging growing up, I think, is harder for girls and women or those that identify that way. Because something's always wrong with us, fix it, right? All the way from, say, we're young. And again, this may or may not be well-meaning parents, like, your hair's a mess. You're not going to go out of the house like that. So even like, those clothes don't match. Go change. And I get that. And there's a time and a place for that. But sometimes, so what?
You're shutting down expression.
Little kid. Go.
Let them be weird.
Right? And then what happens as we grow? So then we get to school. And maybe there's some bullies or some mean kids because maybe we're just being who we are, right? But someone doesn't like that or they want to make fun of it. So there's some more shutdown. And then what if you're a vulva body person and now you get a period? They are nasty, they're smelly, they're embarrassing, keep it to yourself, it's horrifying, all the things. Right? Shut it down. And now when you if you develop breasts versus some who are flatter chested, you might get made fun of both ways.
Yep.
You're too large, you're too small. You weigh too much, you're too skinny, you're too tall, you're too short. So what are we doing? We're shutting down. And then the messaging is our media, right? Movies, television. I think it's getting better.
I do too.
It's slow. It's slow. And the commercials, the advertising, get rid of your wrinkles, get rid of your cellulite, be thin, be sexy, look good all the time, have sex like porn, which...
Let your vagina look like that too.
Yep. So you see, it's really just these like micro traumas are happening our whole life that we maybe are aware or not aware. And so to answer your short question with a really long answer,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for my age group and up, just growing up in like the early 2000s, 90s, it was so traumatizing as a woman. And I will watch shows now that I watched back then and see thin people and remember thinking they were fat. And like there's like a
Because the
size 2,
media
but
did.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just like, and then treating myself that way and um just working my whole adult life to unlearn that. And I do think media has gotten a lot better. And you see more diversity, different kinds of people and body shapes and all of that. And I am about to have a baby girl, and I hope that things continue to get better and she doesn't have to ever worry about that, and she can be herself, and as long as she's healthy, like I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't have that at all. I had from every angle, like, oh, you're eating too much, you're way too big, because I was huge, I was so tall. And like started my period at like 9 years old, so fully formed, and was just like shamed for it for my whole life. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking, like, I didn't ever like myself when I was
No.
little because of the don't do that, oh, why do you look like that, oh, I don't even know. And even the creepy side where the parents would be like, you're gonna regret being mean to her, she's gonna be beautiful one day. And it's just like, that's weird to say to a
Right.
10-year-old.
Right.
Like, why are we
Yeah.
like sexualizing these children even?
Right. Right.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. And I think, social media has made, as great as social media is, it's also made some things harder
I
and
agree.
worse.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up with social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't looking at all of this all of the time on my cell
Comparing.
phone as a young person, right? Comparing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's hard. And I think a lot of that messaging that we've just talked about is contributes to why we're so we have such abusive self-talk.
100%.
And I consider it abusive.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, I hope some people do, but most of us don't talk to our friends or our family the way that we talk to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Would never.
And right, we would never. Never. We love them too much. Well, what happened to our self-love?
Mm-hmm.
We were taught all of these things unbeknownst to us. So yes, a lot of what I do when I work with people is helping them to unlearn and relearn. But I also work with women on, body image and self-love, kind of the things that we talked about. A lot of what I do, though, is the erotic blueprints, but I really include a lot of the practices that I have learned and received certifications in, the ones that I mentioned earlier, because I think they're all important. We pleasure is important. Pleasure in life, yes. Self-pleasure, yes. Moving energy, yes. Erotic blueprints, yes. Like I couldn't S factor with that movement. It just all I think it all plays a part.
Yeah, it's hard to have one without the other because
Yeah.
like experience, like even I've done a couple of Mama Gena's workshops, and like even just that, like there's so many women, myself included, that it's like we can get through a lot of this and we feel like really high and jazzed, but we're still going to reach a block because of those emotions, which Mama Gena has tools for helping you get through that as well. But like the emotional piece is huge, the physical piece, the embodiment piece, those are all, they all need to play a part in that healing journey. We need all of it. I love that you have sought out so many different varieties of healings and teachings from so many incredible people trying to still like bring back the goddess and help us to embody her, because she exists inside of all of us. And it's such a nice like buffet of
Mm-hmm.
services that you can kind of all mold together and provide something so unique and special that really embodies all of those parts. It's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't set out to like um, do that intentionally. It just kind of then the next thing I was looking into, right? And
Yeah.
then the next thing. And I think it is really helpful because it allows me to pull from so many different things
Mm-hmm.
and help meet people where they are,
Yeah, totally.
you know, and that's always been really important to me. Even when I was in the fitness industry, I never wanted to write a program or anything, a physical program at that time, that wasn't attainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do now is the same. It's going to be challenging, might be hard, might be awkward. There might be silence because you don't know what to talk about, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I want it attainable because I, I think it's important not to set people up for failure.
Definitely.
And in kind of the fitness world, and I'm not talking about competing, I'm just talking about go to the gym 7 days a week, work out set, right? I think that we can set people up for failure because we're expecting perfection,
Yeah.
maybe. Mm-hmm.
From both perspectives, I feel like a lot of times when I'm struggling with intimacy with my partner, it's never really anything he's doing. It's I don't feel good in my body or
Mm-hmm.
about myself, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like self-conscious even though he doesn't fucking care at all. But
Right.
it's like it's never him, but then he probably feels like what am I doing wrong? Why am I like not attractive to you? And then it's a whole cycle. And so, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you are taking better care of yourself and like mentally and physically, that does help with your intimacy, right? You know?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. But honestly, I've never met a woman, I'm just going to speak for vulva bodies that identify as women right now,
Yeah.
um, that felt good about every single thing physically.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I looked at someone and thought head to toe, drop dead gorgeous. There's something still messaging,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like, okay, so if someone pays you a compliment, you, anyone, you know, it's easy for people, especially women, to go, oh, no. Because what happens as soon as we hear a compliment, we're like, we immediately hear in our head a thing or things that we don't love about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Or what we often do is return a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of just thank you, and practice that. It's a practice,
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
just that,
Well, it's very
right?
symbolic of receiving.
Yeah,
Like it's not just
yeah.
compliments, but like receiving anything we feel that we're not worthy of receiving it, or that
Mm-hmm.
we have to balance it out by giving, and we don't even take the moment to like slow down and be like, wait, no, I do deserve that. And also you're taking away from the person who wanted to give that to you.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is the awful cycle. We're always in competition of
Yeah.
trying to make sure we're in balance with our giving instead
Yeah.
of like allowing ourselves to receive.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Do you work with trans women ever that are trying to come into their feminine energy as it's like new to them?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I don't, just simply because I don't feel my level of study would do them justice, but I do have coach friends that do.
That you refer them
Awesome.
to?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Do you could you
And
give us a couple of those names?
yes, I
Please?
will. I'll have to look them up, but I'll get them
Okay.
to
Yeah,
you.
We will
that would
put
be
I don't
those
have
awesome.
in
them.
the show notes then.
Yes,
Great.
I would love to do that.
And then I'd love to go into some examples. I think we've already given some, but of couples that are coming to see you
Mhm.
and maybe like certain scenarios you've seen. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, do you find that men are hesitant a lot of the times and feel like they're being dragged there by their partner, or Do you think that they're also eager, or do you see both?
I see both. I think women are typically more open to growth. I think often men's maybe ego gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that meanly. Remember, the messaging, we're receiving messaging, they're also receiving messaging to shut it down. Don't be a pussy, right? Which I hate that word. In
Power
that
to
way.
the pussy.
In that
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
right? Right. Not the word itself, but
Pussies
Mama
are
Gena is
powerful.
reclaiming.
Right.
Yes, yes. But, you know, they have all this messaging growing up too. They have to be strong. They have to be tough. They have to be able to do it all. They have to know it all. They have to be this great lover because they're supposed to be educated based on porn.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know. So, and they are typically not rewarded for personal growth. Men are typically rewarded for producing, achieving. And I'm not saying that women aren't. There's nothing is black and white, right? It's just sort of all shades of gray. But more often, men are rewarded when they produce and they achieve, right? Women can be awarded that way, rewarded, but also, you know, they tend to be the nurturers, right? And so they can also work in that space more easily than sometimes a man is given permission to, even by himself. Yeah. But I think one of the biggest things between couples, no matter the gender or how they identify, I just tend to speak in man and woman, but I'm recognizing that, you know, I know there are so many more, is where the erotic blueprints come into place. And that's because, again, we've all heard you don't know what you don't know, right? Just like until people learn the love languages, you don't know that. Sex language, which is the erotic blueprints for those that aren't familiar, is how you like to receive sexually and intimately. And I'll just do a super brief description.
Yeah,
we're
if you
so
like,
excited
like
about
we
this.
know nothing about
Yeah.
the erotic blueprint, because
Okay.
I don't actually.
Okay. And then we'll just kind of start winding our way through there.
Perfect.
So there's 5 erotic blueprints, and these were created by Jaiya maybe 20 or so years ago. The first one is energetic. And this is a person that likes space and longing. They feel energies. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you kind of like just a snippet of like the positive attributes and just a one or so of a shadow,
Okay.
a potential shadow, but there's so much more. So they need that space and time. As far as touch, they might prefer hovering, like say, just even here, or just like the hairs on your arm touch.
Love it.
Right, potentially. The tricky part is if they are not ready, the love of their life might walk in, give them a big old hug even, and it will shut them down because they're not ready. So even just a hug. And then there's sensual. So the sensual, their path to arousal is through all of their senses. So ambiance, sight, sound, taste, smell, texture, all of these things. One of their potential shadows is they can get in their head, and that can shut them down. Like, oh, it's too cool in here, or the light's too bright, or t-shirt in the dryer, or whatever. Right? They typically like a more grounded touch. So again, on the arm, it might be more pressure, more rubbing, or even like dragging your arm or your hand. Another one is kinky. And kinky is 2. There's a psychological and a sensation. So sensation is maybe spank, scratch, all the things you can think of. Psychological is going to be more power dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And kinkies tend to have a lot of shame, unfortunately. And it's a spectrum. So kinky can be on one end of the spectrum, a couple just changed a position and they're like, right, that was kinky, right? All the way to the furthest, wildest thing you've ever seen, heard of, whatever, right? So it's a spectrum. Let's see, what else did I do? Sexual. So the fourth one is sexual, and their path to arousal is nudity, genitalia, orgasm. Just want to get it done. Get on it, get it done. One of their potential shadows is that is often their only path to arousal. They have a hard time accessing any other way. And then the shapeshifter, they can roll pretty easily in all of these and access all of them. A potential shadow for them is that they tend to meet wherever their partner is in that blueprint and give in that. So often they go without being fed. So that's a potential there. So let's say, now what does that look like in practicality? Let's say we have an energetic partner and a sensual partner. So after the initial honeymoon phase of the relationship, when all of the chemicals and all the things are big, right? When that tends to kind of come down and life starts getting in a routine, and not that that's bad, because relationships have stages, right? But that's when I think we start seeing the blueprints show, right? Because all the other stuff and the newness, we're not typically as in touch with, wait, what do I really want? So imagine back to, we have an energetic partner and a sensual partner. And when they don't understand each other's language and trying to feed each other in each other's language, not their own, this is often a scenario. So the sensual might say, you never want sex. You know, I want to give you a different one. This will be a little easier. Let's go with a sexual and a sensual instead. I think because there's a little bit more diversity here. I think it'll be a little easier to understand. So let's go back to the sexual partner. What do they want? Nudity, genitalia, orgasm. So the other partner is a sensual, and they might need, I need the lights, I need the romance, I need some music. And so here's where things can collide. The energetic is,
Sensual.
Sensual. Wait, no, I've got sexual.
Yeah.
The sexual is like, with so much work. It's just so much work all the time. Don't you even want me? Right? But then the sensual might say to the sexual, all you want is sex. It's just that they don't know. But now they think each other's a jerk, or they only want one thing, or you're an ass, or whatever, right? When that's not the case. It's just their sex language. Ideally, we want to expand into all of them, because how great is it to be a shapeshifter without the shadow or the shadows, right? Because if you're a shapeshifter, think of all the tools, all the fun things, all of the different ways that you can access your arousal. So that's our ultimate goal, is to expand into all of them.
What do you think you are?
Well, I was like kind of going through, like, I feel like I can be all of them. Like, I feel like I'm on a scale, like I have ones that are probably stronger. I actually purchased the test. I still haven't taken it yet. So I'm excited to find out what I am, because it was some
Sex,
Goop
Love, and
show
Goop
on
with
Netflix.
Gwyneth
They
Paltrow.
talked about
like masturbating.
No,
That was crazy.
Yeah, Sex, Love, and Goop. And they do a whole episode, or it's like woven in, I don't remember, but about this. And what was really fascinating is that a lot of the couples, like their
Right.
strongest one was their partner's weakest and vice versa. And so like trying to meet each other, but to have them practicing and showing like how the person wants to receive, and to see them all have orgasm without like doing anything, like no sex involved, just simply like this, it was a sensual person. And for them, like even the man, to kind of realize that he could also be aroused by that, and he was a sexual person. And so that was just so fascinating to me. Like if we could just understand that about each other and take the time to live in that energy with our partner, because ultimately like we want to be pleased and we want to please, like you love that person. But it's just a matter of like meeting each other and turning each other on in the way that they get turned on. Like you can't just, not all of us can just like go in and do it. So but I do see myself like in a lot of those things. I think I'll be surprised. I think there's more kink in me, but I think there's a lot of shame around kink, that because like I do get turned on by like having sex in weird places, or you know, like things like that. And yeah, it isn't something like, it does feel like work sometimes though too. I definitely feel energetic at times, and definitely I think like very sensual. Like if you could put on some mood music and you put on some like twinkly lights for me, and you like just touch me for a little bit, like okay, let's go, I'm ready. But if you just come at me, like it's harder for me to be turned on and ready to receive that, because then it feels like work, and I don't want it to feel like work, because I want to love you. What do you think you are?
I think I'm all of them. I love them setting a mood, but also I can just get in there, get it done. That's feels accomplished for me nowadays. With being real pregnant, I'm like, we just got to do this. It's not going to be sexy. It's not that comfortable. But we're both getting off, so it's good. Yeah, when I was going through them, I felt all of those. So I feel like I'm a shapeshifter.
I think even if we're not, even if someone isn't a shapeshifter, rarely do we have sex, we'll say, because that's what people call it, have sex, the same way all the time, right? There might be quickies. We might take it longer.
I
We might
love a quickie.
Right.
Me too. So, just get this over.
Yeah. I think, I think they're all good, and all the ways are good. The challenges are if we're unwilling to maybe learn another way,
absolutely.
or grow, or meet our partner. And you mentioned it. It's one thing to know and understand. It's another thing to actually practice.
Yeah,
And
totally.
work. We don't like to use that work
Yeah,
word.
we don't want it to be that.
Right.
But if we're not willing, it can feel that way.
Yeah. And I think sometimes egos get in the way. I kind of referenced that earlier. And it can be men or women. I think sometimes it tends to be men more often. But really, instead of looking at a request to maybe do something differently, it's just information. And typically, our partner wants to please us, and we want to please our partner. So, of course, I want to know what my partner wants. Yes. And, when I would ask my husband, and he would say, whatever I ask him, he would tell me, I'd say, thank you. Thank you for telling me. Because I'm asking because I want to know. Do you like this? Would you rather that? La, la, la.
What would you say for people who have a hard time discovering what they want or speaking about what they want? Because I feel like that is something I struggle with. Like my husband does ask me a lot, and what it does is it pulls me into my head, and then I have to think about things, and I just don't want to do that. And then I get annoyed because I'm like, well, I don't know what I want. Like I could tell you what I don't want. That's easier for me than to tell you what I do want. And I think there's just a lot of self-exploration that needs to be discovered. So what would you say to someone like me who has a hard time vocalizing? Like talking dirty, I can't even do that. It's too funny for me.
Yeah. I think, sometimes in the moment, depending upon your blueprint, it will pop you out of your body and into your head.
Yeah.
Right. It'll pop you out of sensation and into here. And then you're like, how do I find my way back? I can't. Now I'm out. How do I get back to my body? So sometimes it could be later, right? Or, hey, I've been thinking about, I really didn't know at the time, but now I know and I want to share. Sometimes it could be just whatever that person is doing, telling them you like that. Because maybe you don't know the next thing.
Yeah.
Or the next 5 things, but maybe what they're doing does feel good. And maybe let's just talk about like kissing, because that's easy, right? Maybe on the lips. Okay. Maybe in that moment, you want the kiss to be really light. Maybe you just want your lips to graze against the other, right? Maybe you don't want it like jackhammer the tongue yet.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But maybe you're not ready for that, right? So, when you talk
Mark,
about...
are you listening right now?
But so it's, sometimes if you think of it like in a kiss, it might be easier. Like think of all the different ways you can kiss. Faster, slower, hovering. What if you're coming in for the kiss? If you watch that, do that, whew, for a lot of people, other people like, oh my gosh, stop
building tension. Yeah.
Right.
You're like, just kiss me already.
Yeah. So then when you take that to when you take that to other parts of the body and other actions, do you want it faster, slower, hovering, tickling? Do you want a slap or whatever, right? And if you just think of the different ways, even of touch, and it's okay to say, I don't know right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
That's powerful.
Or let me get back to you.
Yeah.
And now you got to figure out how to get back in your body, right?
Yeah.
So here's how you get back in your body. If you're probably, one of the other couple of blueprints that's easy to get out. Think about your 5 senses. And once you begin to think about your 5 senses, it will help you get back to your body. What's touching you? Is your partner touching you? The bed, the couch, the sheet, the blanket. Think about, is there music on? Okay, music, just the things, whatever's going to bring you back. But the main thing back to the body is the sensations on your body. What is happening to your physical body, and try to tune into that. And that's
so helpful.
But again, it's all a practice.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. So what about for couples that have been married like a really long time and they haven't had sex in like 15 years? Like, how do you start getting back into, and they don't have any kind of intimacy. They're running their house business or however you referred to it. Like what would you recommend? And they're running their family business. Okay, now your kids are out of the house and it's just you two. Like, where do you go from here?
Yeah, I reference it like building a bridge back to each other, because, likely the couple has gotten in the habit of everything else, right? And they've built a habit of no intimacy or connection. And so I depending on the couple, and when I meet with them, I have a lot of questions based upon the very few questions that they fill out on my website. And after that, then I put together a lot of questions. But to answer your question, it's sometimes it might be a date night. Like imagine, let's just say this couple, they don't really do anything much. They're maybe empty nesters, but they're retired and maybe not a lot's going on, whatever. A date night could be at home. And so I pull in something from Jaiya called Adventure Date, but then sometimes I'll bring it way down, water it down so that it's little bite-sized pieces. So I might say, okay, one of your home play instead of homework is to do adventure dates. And every other week, one of you will take the lead and you'll plan something, but don't tell your partner what it is, because part of the fun is the anticipation, right? What's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where it can be creative, and it could be a picnic in your living room, right? Whatever it is.
Cute.
Or it could be something that costs money. That the key is it doesn't have to cost money. So that might be something. And the rules, what are the rules? No kids, even if they're grown, no grandkids, even if it's a cute story, right? Because those are all great things and you built a life around that, but that has nothing to do with you as a couple. So maybe it's back to those conversation cards or Google questions for couples or whatever, right? To spark it. I like this other one. A friend coach of mine, Genevieve, shared this with me some time ago, and she calls it 7 minutes in heaven, but it's not the game that you think of growing up, right? This is how the game goes, and I love it, and I use it with my clients sometimes too. And so it's a 7-minute with a timer, and you ask your partner what they would like to receive for 7 minutes. Maybe it's a neck rub, right? It could be anything for 7 minutes. And you set the timer. And the key is you don't go over, because then what happens is it starts to build in obligation. Oh, so now 7 minutes might not be 7 minutes. And if I don't go longer, I might feel bad now. And right, all the things,
that.
right?
That's amazing.
And then you flip it. And the other person gives to that partner for 7 minutes. Set the timer.
That.
Don't go over. Maybe you're talking, maybe you're not talking. Maybe you're just enjoying receiving. But again, rules. If you are talking, it's nothing about all those other really important things of our life. It's only anything that will build connection and intimacy. So those are a couple of ways that people can begin to work their way back, build a bridge back.
I love that.
Do you ever find that people come to you and then they're like, actually, I don't fucking like you, to their partner, and then they just like don't work out afterwards? Like they try to do the intimacy and they're like, actually, I just maybe don't like who you become or who you are now.
Yeah, I haven't personally. I don't keep in contact with my clients ongoing. So I haven't experienced that. I haven't really experienced it even while coaching them, that this is terrible, this sucks.
I feel like if you're willing to put in the effort, then you're
Yeah.
probably a couple that will make it out, because you wouldn't want to go to that first step of seeing you if you weren't.
Right. Yeah. And to understand that it will be hard.
Yeah.
It will be challenging and
maybe awkward.
Right. And awkward, like dirty talk. Maybe some year, someday you're like, okay, I want to figure this out. And this sounds ridiculous or comical, or I just like, don't even like it, like whatever it is. Right. So I think it's just baby steps, and remembering that the path to success is never a straight line. Right? The path to success, like we hear it in sometimes a step forward and two back. That can be it. And also, if you imagine, say you're, if we're imagining a path to success, meaning our relationship is strong and intimate and great sex now. If we imagine it's the straight line, that's not realistic. But what if it's the squiggle line as we're going up to where we want to be, right?
Oh, the places we will go.
Yep. And I think just really remembering that nothing great happens without struggle, right? Struggle to get back. Who were you? And not who we fell in love with, yes, but we are always evolving and changing and growing, hopefully in good ways, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I would love to know what your erotic blueprint is.
Okay. Oh, so I will tell you a funny story first. I'll tell you.
Yes.
Great.
So I, when I very first took the blueprints, I was erotic. Excuse me, erotic. Now I can't speak again. It's a thing. I was energetic and sensual. And so the story about the love of my life comes home from work, gives me a big hug, and internally I'm like, I'm not doing this outside because I don't want to hurt him. But inside, I am not ready for that kind of love, physical love right now. So that was hard. And the t-shirt in the dryer, that's my story. That's way back because he loved to tell that story because we were in it. I'm like, oh, your shirt is in the dryer. I think I'm just trying to save his shirt because it cannot go on and on and on. This is a special shirt. But
like,
was
what?
that
Really?
just right? He's like, really?
Right
Forget
now.
about the shirt. I'll buy another one. And, that in fun, that could have been just, oh, I remember the dryer, right?
Yeah.
But also, I was very much in my shadows because I didn't know anything about the erotic blueprints. I didn't know about shadows and the language of it. So my husband and I had a big disconnect in that way. My whole adult life, even before my husband, I thought I was broken. Like something's wrong with me. Well, I was energetic and sensual, right? So I wasn't sexual. Like I would be sexual, but that's not how I was fed. So my shadows are much less now.
Yes.
I've expanded into a little kinky and definitely the sexual, like, okay, that's a quickie or whatever in my world. So yeah, still just always learning and growing and just being open to, I don't know, hard things.
Discovering.
Yeah.
What's your husband's blueprint?
He's a shapeshifter.
Oh,
Great.
that's awesome.
Makes it easier.
Right.
So if someone wants to work with you, like what kind of services, or do you have different packages, different forms? What does that look like? How can we work with you?
Yeah. So they would first go to my website, which is ambitiousliving.com. And then on there, I have a passionate possibilities call. And it's not a sales call. It's a call that they will actually walk away with information and insights.
Awesome.
But that's the first step. There's some questions on there. And once I receive that, they'll set an appointment and we'll meet. And that's where I begin to ask more in-depth questions because what I do is not cookie cutter. Like I shared with you, I'm going to meet the person or couple where they are. And from there, again, I don't say, so this is my package. What do you think? You got 5 minutes to decide. Like that's not the way I roll. And depending, I may share at the time what it is, or I may share the information in a follow-up email. It's very low pressure. That's not how I operate. But I do one-on-one. It depends if it's going to be Zoom or just on the phone. That varies. I don't do anything. I really don't do many one-on-ones in person. I do speaking engagements, retreats, things like that as well. But the first step is just to go to my website and fill that out. And then we go from there.
And what's your Instagram handle?
It is _ambitious_living.
Just so helpful. Like I already feel like I have more tools that I can go home with and play.
Good.
It's all
Good.
about playing, right?
Yes.
That's what
yes.
brings pleasure.
We try to call it home play instead of homework, right?
Oh,
just,
I love that.
Just to kind of give a shift.
Amazing.
So great.
In our thoughts.
Would you like to pull a card, Amber?
Yeah, let's pull a card from the sexiest deck alive. Some of our listeners, if this is your first episode, you may not know, but this deck is called the Sexiest Deck Alive by Gigi Savage, who's a past guest of ours. It is beautiful, fun deck. Lots of.
She's great. She has, I believe, she has like a sex column for with Cosmo now, and
she's doing Playboy
she's doing
stuff
all kinds
too.
of awesome stuff.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing.
Works on a ranch sometimes in Nevada.
Okay. I'm going to hold these over my heart. And Rain, I just want you to tell me when to stop.
Now.
I felt that one too. Oh, prioritize play and pleasure.
Perfect.
Are you kidding me? Says you're working too hard. Give yourself a fucking break. Kids know how important play is, and we all carry around our inner child. So mean biz when it comes to play. Make it more of a priority to have play and pleasure. Fuck off and have fun.
Yay.
Oh, that's great. How appropriate
Yeah,
for this session.
Yeah, that's exactly right. How funny. Such a fun deck. Highly recommend it. Oh, I also wanted to recommend my husband and I last year anniversary, I got us these books called the Adventure Challenge. Have you ever heard of them? So I got like the 3-pack. So we have the like cooking dates, and then there's just like the adventures, which you can go off and do anything or stay home. Like there's so many different options. And then the third book is for the bedroom, which is really fun. And I really love it because it's like a scratch off. So you don't really know what you're getting into. And there's always just a lot of like helpful tips. Like we've done a couple of the bedroom ones, and one was someone has to be blindfolded, and the blindfolded person has to tell the other what they want. And you just like have a whole play session. And that was really helpful. And then we do a lot of the dinner ones too. And there's always like a really fun little date piece to the recipe also. So I just wanted to put that out there as a recommendation for others trying to get creative. And I just saw that they put out a little conversation deck too for lovers. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of that as well as our listeners. So we also like to ask all of our guests 2 questions. And the first question is, what is something that is really important for you to make sure that you do each week for self-care?
One really important part for me is music and movement. And even before this time with you, I needed to get out of my head. So I put music on and I just moved. I just
amazing.
Because we know it's inside of us. Just have to get out of our head. So music and movement.
Oh, that's amazing.
Same. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? And that could be your younger self far in the past, all the way up to yesterday.
Yeah, that's good. I'd like to say, don't be so serious. And it's rarely about you.
Yeah.
Right.
Truth.
All right. Well, we'll go around with our self-care magic. I would like to say take a shower and take a moment to just visualize the water coming over you, taking away anything, any stress, worries, thoughts, bullshit, taking it down the drain, away from you. Let it go.
I am going to take from Rain and say, move your body to some music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, for me, that's really the biggest one. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to repeat because
Yes.
Piggyback.
it's
So now you
huge.
really have to do it.
Yeah, no,
That's your home play.
yeah, it's just so important. Even if I'll share this just briefly. Mama Gena,
Mhm.
music.
Mhm.
If no matter if we're angry, sad, whatever, put that music on that makes you
Mhm.
feel that feeling and move your
Mhm.
body and release that. But don't leave it in the anger. Work through the sadness and then the happiness or the turn on in your
Mhm.
music. So, music.
It's called swamping.
Yep.
It is so powerful,
Mhm.
so healing.
Mhm.
Scream in a pillow.
Right?
Love it.
Yep.
Let it out.
Awesome.
Go rage.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Rain. This has been so
Amazing.
enlightening and helpful. We both were so exhausted earlier, and I just feel like super energized now. I knew that we would feel
Great.
that. So thanks for your energy and your time and all your beauty and inspiration.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Find us on TikTok and Instagram at Waking Up the Witch.
Please email us your witchy stories, ghost stories, corrections, and advice questions to wakingupthewitch@gmail.com.
Love you.
Love you.